the intention and the energy that we create through that interaction is the vessel in which we access the wholeness that we think that we lost.
Welcome to Satori Mindset Podcast. My name is Yuki Yoshii, and this is your time, your moment to reflect on yourself, your life, and to integrate your journey to feel aligned, and to ultimately make the awakened version of you a default mode. So let's begin.
So we're spiritual beings living in a physical body and gifted with intellectual or psycho-emotional mind. Many of us come to this earth plane getting raised by their parents and growing up in the culture, country, community that we're surrounded by. We learn language, we go to school, we form family, we go to work, we retire, and life seems to be sort of a mechanical, transactional process where we see and observe the world and sort of do the same thing. But along with that path, what many people begin noticing and realizing is this feeling that something is missing or there's more to life. Sometimes people use the term purpose. I don't know what my purpose is, or something doesn't feel like it's clicking inside. And that is a feeling world, not an intellectual, conceptual world, but we feel and we know that something needs to be connected more. So in this video, I want to share with you something that I found the most fundamental, but yet misunderstood. Even it's in the blind spot for a lot of people, that most people are not noticing that this mechanism is embedded in this physical life experience. And until we wake up into this idea, we remain sleeping. And many people use the term awakening, enlightenment, a realization. And I feel like the life path is a process of engaging in that unfoldment of what's true in us. But this one piece is going to give you a great clarity of why you might be experiencing what you're experiencing. And no matter how much you entertain your surrounding with something that gives you energy, right? It could be your community, it could be your health, it could be your relationship, it could be your success in your business. Something deep inside of us is going to continue to tell us until we turn our direction to meet what is being called from within. So we are spiritual beings living in the physical body and gifted with psycho-emotional mind. So what does that really mean is that this physical five sensory life experience, right? You experience life using the perception, sensory perception of what you can see, hear, smell, taste, touch. But let's go back to how you arrive on this earth plane. So every single one of us was in our mother's womb. Now, when we were in the mother's womb, we were inside of our mother. So that gives us or gave us a sense of bonding. We weren't even out into the life on land. And the reason that I'm saying life on land is because when we come out of the womb, you start begin experiencing gravity. But when we were in our mother's womb, we were still in our fluid system, which is different kinds of gravitational force that you're experiencing. And then also because you were in that fluid system, you felt connected to the rest. Yes? So when you were in your mother's womb, you didn't have the conscious awareness. You didn't even know language, any language. Yeah. So for some of us, or almost all of us, it might be a little bit challenging to sort of visualize how that would feel or the experience in that moment, but we can imagine it, right? So we were fully connected, and the first separation that we experience is that we separate out of our mother's inside. So now you get exposed to something different from what you felt connected inside being in your mother's womb. So when we come out of the womb and when we get birth into this life on land, actually, when we look at from this perspective of, okay, I'm here, I was born, and then most people work on growing up and then going to school and finding a career path, right? So from a human perspective, right, human mind's perspective, we are encouraged to become independent and individual, right? The first individuality, independency, is for the infant baby to be able to crawl. Until that can happen, all the babies, us, were inside of our mother's arms, hand, being held. So that is also a connectivity, right? But then, little by little, the baby, the infant, the child is gonna be encouraged to crawl, walk, and then we experience slow but gradual separation from what we felt connected. So from the human mind perspective, that is being encouraged. But from a spiritual point of view, that feeling, the felt experience inside of us is gradually, little by little, sensing a feeling of separation. Because once you felt connected fully, because you were together, you're even inside, and then now you're outside, and then little by little, that the feeling of being held is gonna be less and less. When you're able to walk now you're encouraged to walk and do things on your own. Now, when you go to kindergarten, elementary school, now you actually separate yourself from the mother that you physically and kinesthetic is the language sensation of the body, you felt connected. So that whole process of growing up by becoming a child, becoming a teenager, going to school, finding your identity, your own singular individual identity, that we all were encouraged to become independent from a human mind perspective. From a spiritual perspective, it's a process of separation from what we felt connected to the whole. Then we begin focusing on the outside world, not the inner feeling. So I am here and you see my body, right? And you are watching or listening to this, you have your own body and you have all the things around you, the physical stuff, including others' physical body. So when we start getting caught up with that outside five sensory perception, what you can see, hear, smell, taste, touch, you begin focusing on the outside world, and now the sense of connectivity, belonging, connection that you had where you came from, or completely disconnected, and now you are seeing the world from I am here as an individual body, and the rest of the world is separate. Now I have cultivated my independent mind, then I am encouraged to function individually. So when we get caught up with this physical life, material point of view, we start getting sucked into this feeling of separation because you are an individual creature having a body, individual mind. And then what happens to many of us, if not most of us, is that we start seeking a spiritual experience that allows us to feel connected. But it's the other way around. Because we are a spiritual being having a physical experience, not the other way around. So when we start getting the outside to be louder, the five sensory material world to be louder than the inner feeling of where we came from or who we essentially are, we start flipping and reversing the order, living unconsciously assuming as if I am physical being, I am the physical body, I am this individual mind, and you have different bodies. and then begin living life based on the assumption of separation. But because the essence of who we are is spiritual being, you will always finding something missing because the perspective and the energy in which you are living from is in a false point. Because we are not a physical being, we are spiritual being having a physical experience. But when you start assuming that we are physical being, because of the lack of connection, we call this loss of contact with the being. Loss of contact with the being. Many people, that the process of gradually being encouraged to become independent, having an individuality using the body and the individual mind, is a process of loss of contact with the whole, with the being. And then, because the essence of who we are is spiritual being, inevitably spiritual being, there is a fundamental knowing and craving to feel connected. Then we start seeking spiritual experience to go to that feeling of connectedness. But can you see how that is a reverse order, right? So as long as we are assuming that we are physical being, right? And then notice that this assumption happens in the subconscious mind. So it's different from, oh, I know that I am a spiritual being, right? Intellectually, you might be telling yourself, but the assumption of where we're coming from subconsciously might be actually wired to feel that now I am physical being. Then you start wanting to have an experience of spiritual experience to feel whole, to feel expansive, to feel connected with the rest. Because the very nature of us is that, so we seek that experience. So the bottom line is that we want to reverse that. So how can we begin living life from the essence? Means that we are a spiritual being living in the physical body and having this psycho-emotional gift and an intellectual mind. So the loss of contact with the whole through the process of separation is, for me, the fundamental reason that people feel something is missing. People are searching for meaning. People are seeking life purpose because so many people are getting caught up with the outside but not connected inside. Now, people experience negative thoughts, negative emotions, and limited belief. Now, notice that our thoughts and feeling emotions and beliefs are in the dimension of the mind. So all the feelings and the thought process have been wired and conditioned based on the experience that we have lived. And none of those that I call it fourth dimensional psycho-emotional plane are static. They're dynamic, right? You can change who you are becoming any single moment. And because most of us, when we were little, subconscious mind was fully open and we absorb all the traits from surrounding, there is habitual tendency of looking at ourselves limited, feeling ourselves limited, and thinking thoughts that limit us, we call negative thoughts, negative feelings, and limited belief. And we get wired by that cycle of limitation. So the one thing that I hear from many people that people are seeking is like peace of mind, especially after the pandemic. I cannot stress enough how many people are seeking that, right? People are seeking happiness, people are seeking fulfillment, people are seeking freedom, people are seeking the connectivity with the sense of purpose. How do we come back to that? We come back to that by realizing who we are, by understanding this process that life has given us. The life gave us to experience separation. And life gave us that process of separation so that we can use our life on earth experience to remember who we are. Because if you came to this earth plane and you stay whole for the entire time, there's no journey and the path to get back home. So in this relative physical world, which means that in this 3D physical plane, there's a left and right, up and down, inside, outside. There's small compared to big. There's large compared to little. There is a relativity. There's a light and darkness. There's love, fear, hate. There's different degrees in experience. And in order to experience and go back to the light within us, which is the full connectedness, the sense of wholeness that where we came from, we must experience that darkness we call contrast, the process of separation, so we can contrast that experience to turn our direction to go back to who we essentially are. You and I are one. All of us are one in the spiritual dimension. And we came here to experience a certain degree of separation so that we can wake up into the idea of we are actually, in fact, are the opposite. We are whole within, and we must turn our attention from the outside to the inside and then go back to this feeling sensation of how we were feeling belonged, bonded, connected inside of our mother's womb, and then using that feeling and creating that experience in each and every single human interaction. When two people encounter and have a conversation, and when the energy feels resonance, we feel connected. When you give something to somebody, and when you have a certain uplifting, pleasant feeling, you feel connected. Now, we are separate human bodies, but then because of that, we have an ability and opportunity to interact. Every interaction is an opportunity to remember who we are through that feeling and a connection that we create through our intention, usage of the words, and the feeling that we create in that spacious awareness. So inside, spiritually, we are already connected as one. So we must realize that. In the outside interaction, we want to use our feeling experience that we have where we came from, and we're going to express that to use the interaction, connection with the outside people to create the same wholeness, connectivity, and that sense of belongingness so that we can demonstrate the connection to create the sense of the loss of contact with the being that we felt like we lost, but we are creating that through the interaction. And then when you start creating that in each and every interaction, you will start feeling that shift in your inside. The meaning that you felt like you were looking for, suddenly you start experiencing that in every moment. Something that you felt like you were missing, that feeling start dissipating because in each and every interaction, now you're feeling whole and connected. The sense of purpose, you start realizing that, okay, purpose is not something that you need to find, but something that I am called to demonstrate because I'm here. And, people use the term purpose and whenever people say I cannot find my purpose, what they're really saying is that I am looking for the vehicle in which I express my gift. Because every single one of us purpose is the same, to awaken and energizing that gift and using that gift to touch others, to serve them. And that's touching others through the service and the gift that we have is just a vehicle, but the intention and the energy that we create through that interaction is the vessel in which we access the wholeness that we think that we lost. So I hope that's helpful to find and access and get in touch with the meaning and the fulfillment that life has to offer. We must understand the mechanism of life, how we came here to forget who we are in order to remember who we are.
Thank you for listening to the podcast. A message I want you to take with you is this. You have a power to choose how you see yourself and the world at any given moment. So stay connected to that wisdom.